Hey, happy Monday, September 25th. Sorry I wasn't here last week, but what's going on in this world? Well, the Federal Reserve has announced that it's going to maintain interest rates at 5.25% to 5.5% in an effort to hold down inflation. Wheel of Fortune has announced that Vanna White will be with them for another 2 years, and I think she gets a slight pay increase as Pat Sajak will be retiring. And lastly, the Chicago Bears. Their defensive coordinator, I guess, hasn't been with the team for the last couple of weeks. He is now leaving the team, and the Bears have accepted his resignation. I heard that there's some personal health concerns or challenges he's dealing with. Whatever they are, we certainly hope for the best for him and his family in the upcoming future. Anyway, let's get to today's topic. That's right. Today we're going to continue our topic of life insurance, and we're going to talk about building a life insurance policy. You know, back in the 90s when the Bulls were winning all their championships and sports radio was starting to come out, I was listening to Norm Van Leer, an ex-Chicago Bull, a very good player. And he was on one of the radio stations, and the Bulls had just lost a game by whatever happened in the final seconds. And people were whining and complaining about it wasn't fair, the refs blew the call, and Norm Van Leer made the comment, they had 47, 48 minutes to take care of business, and it came down to the last 2 or 3 seconds. They should have taken care of business before it got to that point. So what does that have to do with life insurance, Mark? Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of advertisements out there, and you're probably getting phone calls. I'm getting phone calls. In fact, I record these things very early in the morning because the phone starts driving me crazy with phone calls for people selling final expense life insurance. And as we said, final expense life insurance is just that, the last expenses, usually funeral bills to take care of the estate until it can be settled. Maybe you don't need to have, in terms of the grand scheme, all this money because your estate has been growing to that point, but a lot of people buy this because their beneficiaries need that immediate cash that life insurance provides. So now you remember this up here, my life needs analysis. I've posted it a few times in the past few weeks. And for you younger people, if you work through that, I've told you don't be afraid of the huge number you can come up with. It can be very frightening, but it's not that frightening with the proper written life insurance program. Your estate should cover your final expenses. And that's not a bad plan, to be honest with you. However, life insurance, we're all going to die, and life insurance will cover those expenses at a nominal cost. Why insure yourself dollar for dollar when you can do it for a nominal cost? And then you younger people say, I've got my mortgage to take care of, I've got my kids' education to take care of, I've got to do income replacement, and you come up with this huge figure. So once again, using the life needs analysis here, let's say, for example, you come up with a $750,000 life need, and you're scratching your head saying, whole life insurance, I can't afford $750,000 because the premium is through the roof. However, you know, term insurance eventually runs out. Well, did you know you can combine a permanent life insurance policy, whether it's a whole life, a universal life, you can combine that with a term policy. And a term policy can be for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. You can typically put a decreasing term if you needed to cover a decreasing mortgage. So now building a life insurance policy like that can answer 2 questions. Question number 1 is, I have all the insurance I need today to cover all my needs. But toward the end of life, that term policy is going to run out. Now you don't need, number 2, to buy that final expense policy because that permanent policy is there, it's in place, and in many cases, that permanent policy can be paid off. And remember, I have told you in the past that term policy is renting, permanent policy is buying. So that permanent policy can be with you the rest of your life. And that's right, you won't need to succumb to all those people saying, you need to have a final expense policy because you already took care of that when you were a younger person at a fraction of the cost, and you probably have got a lot more insurance than you would have to buy at that stage of your life. So to figure out what is a good plan for you, numbers at the bottom of the screen. Don't hesitate to give me a call. We're happy to work with you to write the right kind of policy to cover the term needs for today and the final expense needs later on down the road. Hey, what's going on at the MLD agency? Well, we went to a workshop held by the Emmerich Group in Rockford, and that was on the 2024 open enrollment season and a little bit of a preview of the new products for next year with the prescription drug cards, but mostly the Medicare Advantage plans and some of the Medicare supplements. We were able to renew a group for their group health insurance, and we've worked with a couple of you on your Medicare Advantage plans and helping to people make transitions from the working insurance under 65 into their senior products. So that's what's going on at the MLD agency. Next week, it'll be the first week in October. Wow. Be the month of Halloween. Until next week.